Welcome back, everybody. It is December 12th, 2018, 4:55 p.m. We're going to do a little jumping around here. We're going to start with today's top news as far as earthquakes go. We had a 4.4 early this morning in Tennessee. This was 9 miles from Spring City. As you can see, this was 4:14 a.m. in the morning. There was actually three earthquakes. There was two aftershocks after this quake. This one was about 9 kilometers deep, if I'm not mistaken, and the second, the 3.0, which was about 13 minutes later, was 5.1 kilometers deep. I'm sorry, that was a 3.0. I actually have some pictures pulled up. Let's see, this is from my phone app. I threw these on the laptop real quick for you. At the time I posted these, which was about 10 minutes ago, there was 188 earthquakes today, 787 this week, and 5,534 so far this month. The most significant of the day, as we said, 4.4 in Decatur, Tennessee. So about 11 miles northeast of this town. Like I said, 4:14 a.m. Depth was 5.6 miles, which is 9 kilometers, basically 617 miles away from where I am currently living. That is what the phone app shows. So let's also take a look at these other two. There was two other quakes as well. This one here was a 3.0. I have that pulled up on a separate chart, but not much talk about this one. This was a 2.1 about an hour after this 3.0. So we had the 4:14 a.m., then we had 4:27 a.m. About 13 minutes later was the 3.0, a little bit south, closer to Highway 58, and then we had about an hour later, a little more than an hour later, 3 miles northeast of Decatur, Tennessee, we had another 2.1. So clearly a little bit of a roll there in the earthquake world. But the 4.4, pretty significant for that area. This is an active area. They say online, at least on some of these websites. I brought up a few articles we can look at. But let's check out the actual areas in which these took place. Now, this is the earthquake.usgs.gov chart that I use pretty often on this channel. You can see here 4.4, 11 kilometers northeast of Decatur, Tennessee, which would be this one right here. So basically, it was in this guy's backyard. You can see a little pond here. And then when you scroll up, we have the second of the two. This was 13 minutes later, 3.0, 11 kilometers northeast of Decatur, Tennessee as well. Probably a little closer if this is northeast. Obviously, these are separated, so maybe it wasn't enough to change that number. But then that third one we're talking about was right around this area here. So we had some action in the Tennessee area. This quake was felt in Atlanta, Georgia. So our normal website that we go to here shows that about 10,000 people... Actually, that was the wrong quake. Let's go back. About 7,000 reported that one. Let's check this one real quick. I think it was closer to 10,000. Yeah, 8,797 have reported on this site specifically that they felt it. And again, there's articles showing that this was felt all the way down in Atlanta, Georgia. So really quick, an earthquake that struck eastern Tennessee early Wednesday could be felt as far away as Atlanta, the U.S. Geologist Survey said. The light earthquake occurred around 4:15 a.m., sorry about that jump, and was centered about 7 miles, 10 kilometers northeast of Decatur. I'm sure you guys can help me correct that. About 15 minutes later. It shows 13 minutes on the website, but not really a big deal there. A 3.3 magnitude aftershock struck, according to the USGS. The Eastern Tennessee seismic zone is one of the most active earthquake areas in the southeast. So, this isn't that uncommon, but it is a significant earthquake. Now, what's also significant about this, which they have already said is not an issue, is the distance from this 4.4 that the Watts Bar nuclear plant is. You could see I have this line here. This is about 2.9 miles from the epicenter of this earthquake here, which was the start of this little chain of earthquakes we had in Tennessee. And once again, you could see it's right in this guy's right off the edge of his land here in the woods. So it was definitely felt, definitely shallow enough to feel, and definitely worth reporting. So again, They don't report, or they do not have any reports of damage or injuries or anything as of right now. Just the fact that it was a 4.4 at this depth is definitely newsworthy, and the fact that it's less than 3 miles away from a nuclear plant, you definitely want to be up to date on stuff like that, especially if you live in this area. And they started receiving calls right away. The fire departments and local police stations. Again, this was at 4:14 in the morning, so most people were still sleeping at the time it happened. If it was strong enough to wake you up out of your sleep, it was certainly strong enough to be noticed on the news, which we can clearly see here. So, all right, with that said, let's talk about the possibility. And yes, I'm saying possibility because we are still about 14 days out, 13 days out from Christmas. We could be dealing with a nor'easter on Christmas Day. Let's take a look at that. All right, took a small break there. But anyway, back to this nor'easter possibility. First, let's continue to look at this first system that we are currently dealing with. This is the one we spoke about that's going to come down towards Texas and then get kind of severe down in the Gulf State area. Before it makes its way up to the northeast. This could also be a snow producer, but according to most meteorologists and most of the charts I'm seeing, we're not going to get clipped as much with that cold dip in the jet stream to allow the moisture to become snow, and we'll see that here. We'll take one look at this again. We did this last night, but you can see between now and tomorrow night, is when this thing is really going to start dipping down into the Texas area. They are closely watching the river gauges in these areas as they are already kind of high because of the moisture that's been going through this area. We've had a lot of Gulf moisture coming up, as it always does, but it's been mixing with these systems that have been coming down from the upper west corner of the U.S., and there's a like a high pressure stuck by Alaska that's kind of wibble-wobbing our jet stream and also aiding in this El Nino that we're dealing with, which is also what we talked about because of the jet stream dipping down so low towards Florida. Florida's at risk for a very high tornado season, and that's caused by the El Nino. The El Nino is what causes our jet stream to dip down a lot farther south than it's really used to doing. And that is the situation right now. And they're saying a lot of it is caused by a high pressure that is just not moving by Alaska. So the jet stream is moving around that and then trying to correct itself over the U.S., and that's causing these low dips. So with that said, let's go on and just watch this really quick again. So by the end of tomorrow, we're expecting this low pressure system to be over basically the north central area of Texas. Again, there is the possibility that this will pull some snow behind it in the northern areas of Texas. There's actually winter storm watches in parts of Texas right now because of this situation that they're expecting. So we'll move forward a little more and see what we have for the 14th. You can see here now the Gulf moisture is getting pulled up into Florida. This is when Florida really needs to pay attention to this because of the tornado situation, not just the heavy rain and the thunderstorms, which Florida's always used to, but because of the dips in the jet stream and the El Nino we are in, the tornado percent is way up, and it's going to continue to be that way at least through the rest of winter and spring. So we're going to see a lot of these, unfortunately. It's going to be one of those wave after wave situations, but you can see right here, as we get into the 14th, you got some of those purples and blues. That's that cold air that is pushing behind this low pressure system and mixing with the warmer air in the Gulf. So there's a big temperature differences, lots of temperature differences going on, especially in Texas once we get to the 14th. And then once that happens, this thing is going to roll up to the northeast, and you can see how it kind of cuts off right at the border of New York and Pennsylvania. A little bit of pink and blue in there. Again, they're not expecting much as far as snow, besides the higher elevations may get snow based off this moisture here, but I don't think it's going to be a super big deal as it's expected to pass off by the 17th. It's after the 17th that we may have to worry, at least in Pennsylvania, parts of West Virginia, New York, Massachusetts, Vermont, New Hampshire, you know, our typical northeast states here that would have to worry about it like a snow squall situation. You could see the dips here in the jet stream just after that low pressure system moves out. But what I want to focus on right now, even though it's a little bit into the future, this has the potential to change, of course, we all know that. But as we get into Christmas week. Here's the 22nd. Watch this low pressure here, and then watch the Gulf. It's the same exact setup as we're having right now with the system that's going to move over Texas and then possibly bring the tornadoes back into Florida in the coming days. Watch how these merge together. And then there's two. There's one coming from Canada right here, and then there's a low pressure coming up from the Gulf. And then we see that 9 symbol that we always look for our nor'easters, and there you have it, December 25th, low pressure right off of Long Island. You got New Jersey in there, Connecticut above Long Island. Basically, if this low pressure is half on land, half off land, that's your typical nor'easter look. And with the counterclockwise spin, that's going to pull the moisture into these northeast states. And then with the dip in the cold, in the jet stream rather, with the cold air from Canada, that moisture will then turn to snow. So we could potentially be dealing with a nor'easter on Christmas Day. Now, again, this does have potential to change. As we know, anything 5 days out is basically a coin toss when it comes to forecasting. So this could happen a little sooner. It may happen a little after Christmas, may not happen at all. But as of right now, the GFS is showing the makings of a nor'easter, moisture being pulled up from the Caribbean area, warm, moist air coming up the northeast, and then mixing with that cold Canadian air right over the northeast. Low pressure, half on land, half off land, centralized right over Long Island, according to the data we have right now. So I think that's worth talking about for those weather buffs out there. I'm sure you guys have seen this and or want to know more about it. So this is Tropical Tidbits here. And last but not least, I'll show you really quick. Just check out the wind swirls going on up by the Great Lakes with this cold air from Canada. It's pretty interesting to watch when you're going back and forth with this chart, but it's just like this big swirl going on here. So we got some winds going on along the Great Lakes, very windy by Oklahoma and Texas, actually, because we did speak about those hurricane force winds that were hitting Montana yesterday. Now, those winds have actually been moving in a southeastern direction. It's following that low pressure system that we just talked about for Texas. And you could see here all these brown colors here are high wind warnings, wind advisories, all sorts of stuff. And then right there is our winter advisory, winter weather advisory in Texas that they are expecting on the back end of this low pressure system that is coming before that possible nor'easter for Christmas Day. So, all right, guys, that's what I got for you for now. Hope everyone in Tennessee is good. That was probably a little scary this morning, but it's good to know that everyone, as far as the news is saying now, is safe and not much damage to speak of, especially being so close to that nuke plant. But so we will keep an eye on this low pressure system that is making its way over Texas and then through Florida and then up to the northeast. And we will continue to watch the possibility of that nor'easter, guys. All right, thank you so much for watching. Anything that happens tonight that is worth posting about, you will surely hear about it here. If not, then tomorrow is another day. Thank you all for watching. I hope everyone has a great evening and morning if we don't talk. Stay warm, stay dry, and smile. Have a good day. Bye-bye.